Hi. Okay, so I'm gonna look right there. I'm gonna put these glasses on every once in a while to read my notes. Um, I got a question from a parent um, who was talking about why vulnerability is something he can't express to his kids. And why is that? Why can he be vulnerable to friends, um, but not to his kids? Why is that? Why do we get stuck in this place where we feel like we have to be strong all the time? And so this is what I want to just riff on this for a few minutes this morning with you, because it's such an important concept to think about vulnerability as courage, right? It takes courage to be vulnerable. And if you don't know a lot about what vulnerability means, or you haven't really thought about vulnerability, but you feel it a lot, with your kids, you should check out Brene Brown. She's the master of talking about vulnerability. She's has many books about it. But right now, I'm going to talk about vulnerability this way in terms of parenting. So here's an example. I'm going to give you an example of what a parent does often, what we all have done. Where a child comes home from school and we say, how is your day? Right? How is your day? We want to know their story. We want to know their fears, their feelings. We want them to express themselves to us. But check in with yourself. Are you actually modeling that for them? Are you expressing yourself to them? And I bet you're thinking, well, that's not appropriate, right? My job as a parent is not to unload on my children. That's true. But there's a difference. There's a difference between unloading on your child and saying, okay, this is how I'm feeling so emotional, I'm so exhausted, and you're pushing my buttons and it's all horrible, versus I had a really bad day today at work. I was really stressed, and this is the way I handled it, or this is the way I didn't handle it very well. Like, telling the truth, showing that you're not perfect, showing that you're vulnerable, but then tagging onto that how you handled it, right? So that's what kids really need to see, is how you handle your vulnerability. That you're not running away from it and pretending that you're strong and mighty and got it all together, but that you actually know that vulnerability is part of your everyday life, and it's also going to be part of their everyday life as well. So the more you share your vulnerability, the more they're going to share their vulnerability with you. So the question then becomes, circle back to the question. I don't even know where to look. So I'm going to just look at this little green dot here, and hopefully I'll check it out later and see if it works. The question is this: why am I not willing to be vulnerable with my children? Well, think about that. Why? What messaging did you get from your parents? Were your parents vulnerable with you? What do you believe a parent's role is with children? What's your parent vision? How do you think you should be with children? Right? So these are questions that you have to ask yourself. These are the U-turn questions that bring the question of vulnerability back to how you understand vulnerability. So vulnerability for me as a parent is my greatest strength. It's my willingness to be vulnerable with my kids is my superpower. And their willingness to be vulnerable with me is because I have been willing to be vulnerable with them. I gave up trying to be a super mom a long time ago. I would end up yelling and screaming because I was so disappointed in my inability to be always calm, always sane, always together. So when I messed up, and I messed up a lot, I allowed myself to feel those feelings, and I also allowed my children to see those feelings. And that vulnerability, like, I don't have it together. I haven't got it figured out. I'm not the perfect mom. Even today, even today, I don't have it figured out. But I'm willing to tell you that. But also, I'm willing to stay in this leadership role as parent, right? I can be vulnerable. I can not know where I'm headed. I also can stay in a leadership role with my child. So it's very nuanced, right? When we are vulnerable and we expect our children to sort of problem solve for us, like be a better student, be a better child, be more respectful, be nicer, be more responsive, right? Because they're trying to take care of our vulnerability, that's a problem. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is that vulnerability is a strength. It's the willingness to show up and be transparent with your child in an age-appropriate way. To take responsibility for how you're feeling in an age-appropriate way. I'm not talking about your age, I'm talking about your child's age. So in an age-appropriate way, I'm willing to take responsibility for my feelings. I'm willing to tell the truth. I'm willing to be transparent. And I'm willing to go into the problem solving of my vulnerability. So here I am struggling. I'm upset. I've had a bad day. I don't stay stuck in that place for the rest of the night and start snapping and expect my kids to understand because I've had a bad day. I actually can tell them I've had a bad day and help and ask them to help me problem solve that, maybe. Or I tell them how I'm problem solving it. I'm being transparent. So that's leadership. And when parenting, we're going to hear a lot about leadership. Leadership, leadership, leadership. What is leadership? Leadership is taking responsibility. Leadership is courage. It's vulnerable courage. It's the willingness to be vulnerable, to be transparent, and to take responsibility for who you are, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. So your kids can do the same. You're modeling that for them. So when you are vulnerable with your children and then you ask them, how does your school day? They're more likely going to tell you the truth because you are always telling them the age-appropriate truth. You're not pretending to be this superhero parent who is impenetrable, who doesn't have any problems, who never gets, triggered. But that's not true because you do. You're vulnerable. You get triggered. You get upset. So surface those feelings. Communicate those feelings to your child in an age-appropriate way. But not just leave it open-ended, problem solve it. So your child can see, oh, my mom has had a bad day, and look how my mom is communicating her bad day, and now look how my mom is problem solving her bad day, how she's moving through it. Rather than ignoring the fact that you had a bad day and just being snappy, and then of course your child's going to think, oh, this is about me. So okay, this is just my little riff today about vulnerability, and I'm just, if you have any questions and you want me to talk more about this kind of stuff, CC me, message me, email me, whatever. I'm here. Okay, great to talk to you. Bye-bye.